When you get a 75-gallon aquarium or larger, your stocking options really open up a lot. But as far as my setup, I wouldn't recommend it for a beginner, and let me show you why. So these fish are tiger barbs and green barbs. The tiger barbs are obviously the ones with the stripes, the orange and black stripes, and the green ones are greenish blue with a red nose. And these fish look cute, they look small, they look harmless, but if you guys know anything about tiger barbs, you know that they are absolutely ferocious. So all the fish in here, they are semi-aggressive, so they aren't super aggressive, but they have, you know, some nasty traits about them that could be harmful to other fish that don't have a same temperament. Now, the reason why I wouldn't recommend tiger barbs for beginners is because they can be kind of ferocious. They can pick on weaker fish, they can pick on fish with longer fins to the point to where it could stress out that fish enough to where it will die. And so a lot of people have this issue whenever they get tiger barbs. But if you follow a few key points, you can keep tiger barbs successfully in a community tank like I have here. Now, when you think of tiger barbs, they are a schooling fish, and like most schooling fish, you want to have between 4 and 6 fish. But I would say for tiger barbs, to minimize the aggression, you want to have a much larger school. You want to have probably twice the recommended schooling size, right? If the recommended schooling size for most schooling fish is between 4 and 6, you want to have between 8 and 12 tiger barbs and green barbs. Now, the cool thing is that tiger barbs will school with green barbs. So you can have like 6 tiger barbs and 6 green barbs, and that's your 12 because they will school together. And what you'll notice is that 1, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable, so they're not going to lash out at another fish. And then 2, whenever they do have aggression, because it's still going to happen, it's intermingled among its own school, and so they don't pick on other fish too much. And then at the same time, because the school is so large, there isn't any one individual tiger barb or green barb that gets picked on too much to the point to where it could die. And so that aggression is kind of spread throughout that whole school. And so if you kind of follow that principle when it comes to tiger barbs, what you'll see is that they're actually pretty manageable. Now, there is one caveat I want to talk about when it comes to tiger barbs and green barbs, and that's whenever you add new fish. Now, normally they're not going to pick out other fish, but if you have a new fish, they're gonna definitely be interested and they might pick at it a little bit. And so the key thing here is just to make sure whenever you're adding new fish, you want to make sure it is a fish with a compatible temperament. To give you a good example, this powdered dwarf blue gourami it can definitely hold its own, and it doesn't take any crap from these tiger barbs. I've saw it a few times where the tiger barbs will actually start to get really close and kind of pick at the gourami, and it will lash out. Now, the gourami, I would say, is fairly peaceful, but it's really assertive. It hangs out towards the top of the tank, and if other fish try to pick on it, it's not going to run away. It's going to chase it back off, which is good. You want a fish that kind of does that, because if you get a fish that's more skittish and always runs away, well, that's going to instinctually cause the tiger barb or any other fish to kind of chase after it and pester it even more. Now, the next fish that we have in here are the Bolivian rams. Now, I have 2 Bolivian rams here. I used to have a bunch more, but I sold them on the website. So these are actually for sale. They're on thedirtytank.com. Bolivian rams are another semi-aggressive fish. Now, they're very peaceful towards other fish, and they're more territorial towards its own kind and to other dwarf cichlids. They only get about 3 inches. They don't get very big at all. And so if you're looking for a really interesting fish that has lots of character, that kind of always hangs out in the front, and they kind of hang out towards the bottom, the substrate layer of your tank. And so they're going to occupy that bottom region. So a really cool fish. The way they eat is really interesting. They kind of move in short spurts. They grab a mouthful of sand and they kind of get all the food that's in it and spit out the sand. And so if you're gonna have Bolivian rams or dwarf cichlids in general, I really recommend sand because they like kind of sifting through it to kind of find food. That's kind of how they eat and how they scab. Now, the one thing you gotta worry about is if you get multiple Bolivian rams, you gotta make sure you have enough territory because the more dominant one will continually pester the less dominant one. And so what you'll see is you'll wind up in a scenario where your less dominant one may die because it just gets stressed out and picked on too much. But if you got adequate enough space and enough hiding places, they'll do a-okay. Now, what I recommend with Bolivian rams is either you get a male-female pair, or you only get one, or you only get 4 or more. Now, if you get one, they can hang out by themselves. They don't need to be in a group. They're not going to be any territorial issues, so you're good. Now, if you get 4 more, there is still going to be territorial issues, but no one individual Bolivian ram is going to get picked on too much to where it gets stressed and may die. And so that aggression, that territorial kind of bickering kind of is dispersed among each of them, where you'll have less likelihood of any one fish getting picked on. Now, another dwarf cichlid that we have in here, they're actually a little bit more aggressive than the Bolivian rams. Now, we have crebensis. These are yellow-cheeked crebensis, and I have a pair of them. I have a female and a male. Now, these fish get a little bit longer in length. Maybe they may be pushing 3.5, almost 4 inches. Then that's the male. The male gets a little bit larger than the female. The female stays maybe between 2.5 and 3 inches, but the female has the colors on this one. The females have those hues of yellow on them, and they have that bright purple belly. Now, that's the signature female crebensis look, is the bright purple belly. Now, the brighter the belly on the female, that shows like how ready they are to breed and spawn. Now, they are cave dwellers, so if you're gonna have these kind of crebensis, you wanna make sure you get some cave type hides that they can call their own, because they like to really guard their territory, and they can be kind of aggressive to other dwarf cichlids. Now, whenever it is breeding time, whenever they do lay eggs, they're gonna be even more aggressive. Now, the next fish that we have in here is the Serpa tetra. Now, these are a really cool tetra. They're really gonna be confident in the tank. They're not gonna be pestered by the barbs or the dwarf cichlids, and they also occupy that middle layer of the tank. And they're really great schooling fish. I have about 7 in here, and they are really great about hanging around the tiger barbs and the electric blue cara and some of the dwarf cichlids, and they're blazing fast. When it's feeding time, the tiger barbs and the tetras, they really go after all the food. So really good fish that can kind of act as a dither fish between all the other types of fish that we have going on here. Now, the next fish that we have in here, this one's a peaceful fish. This is a Corydora. We have a couple types of Corydoras in here. We have the Venezuelan Corydora, and we also have the peppered Corydora. And they are a schooling fish. So they're gonna occupy that very bottom layer of the tank. And so they're gonna be right there with the crebensis and the Bolivian rams. Now, what's interesting is I thought maybe there would be a problem with the Corydoras getting picked on by some of these dwarf cichlids, but that is absolutely not the case, which is pretty interesting. And what I find is that whenever there's territorial disputes between the Bolivian ram and the crebensis, is that if a Corydora is in the way, they don't see the Corydora as a threat, so they're not aggressive at it at all, towards it at all, which is really interesting. So these Corydoras can kind of do whatever they want, and they're a really peaceful fish, and they don't have to worry about being picked on by these dwarf cichlids or the tiger barbs, which is really neat. Now, the next fish that we have in here that I hardly ever see, this is the spotted Raphael catfish, and this catfish gets about 6 inches, so he doesn't get huge. So if you guys are looking for a cool catfish that doesn't get really big, get the spotted Raphael catfish. It's a really neat little catfish. It's black with white polka dots all over it, and the cool thing about it is that it has like an armored body. So if it does get picked on at all, like it will not get hurt. Like, these things are like indestructible. They're very, very tough. Now, the other fish that I have in here, these are really cool cleaner fish. These are called the Pandagara, and they're very active. They're not shy at all. They do great at cleaning algae and biofilm, and they're definitely very assertive. They're not gonna let the tiger barbs pick on them or the Bolivian rams. They're not a skittish fish at all, and they'll actually start to come and greet you once they know that you're the feeding person. And so a really cool fish. They get about 4 inches in length, but they're pretty slender. Now they normally hang out towards anything they can kind of lay on. So they hang out on the substrate, they hang out on the driftwood, they even like hanging out on the leaves of these Amazon swords. So a really cool cleaner fish. So if you're looking for a cleaner fish that doesn't get too big, that's pretty assertive and that isn't shy, it's always out and about, get the Pandagara. It's a really cool fish. Now the other fish that I have in here, these are really old platies. I have the red platy, and I have like a yellow-orange platy. Now the yellow-orange platy is a 4th generation platy, right? It had 4 generations of platies, and the red one was actually the father to all 4 generations, which is crazy. Now platies don't get very big, and they are definitely a peaceful fish. But they're assertive, right? They're not very skittish. They're not going to run away from other fish. They can hang out with all the dwarf cichlids and the tiger barbs just fine. And what I like about platies is that they're really great pickers. So they're really great at maintaining parts of your aquarium through picking. So they'll pick algae off the driftwood, off the plants, off the glass and the substrate. So they swim all layers of the tank. And they're really great at just kind of picking at things to clean things up, which I really like about them. Now the next fish in here, and I already kind of briefly talked about them, but this is the powdered dwarf blue gourami. And this fish is absolutely stunning. Definitely a beautiful looking centerpiece fish. It could be a centerpiece fish. They only get about 3 inches in total, and it's kind of unique. They kind of have these whiskers that kind of look like arms, and they kind of move them around like little antennas, and they're little feelers. Now they are very similar to betta fish in how they breathe, and they will mostly occupy the very top region of your aquarium. And then last but not least, I have the electric blue acara. She's about 5 inches right now. She's pretty big, and she's actually the centerpiece fish of my tank here. I absolutely love this girl. I got her from the pet store when she was just this big, and now she's about 5 inches. So she's maxed out at how big she'll get, and for a cichlid, she's very peaceful. She doesn't pick on any of the other fish. She doesn't try to eat any of the other fish, which is great because I have some smaller fish in here. But she's really good about just being a peaceful giant in comparison to all the other fishes here. Cool thing about them, they got loads of personality. Whenever they see you walking up to the tank, they're gonna come right up to the tank and get really excited because they get hungry, because they know that you're the food person. So they're really personable. You can even pet them. I pet mine on occasion. I hand feed mine on occasion too. But they definitely have a bigger appetite because they are a bigger fish. So guys, that's a 75-gallon semi-aggressive community tank. While I wouldn't recommend this setup for a beginner, I would say that if you follow some of the key points that I talked about territory and about the certain amount of numbers you'll need, whether they're for the dwarf cichlids or the tiger barbs, and kind of the sizing that's more appropriate, and just that general assertiveness that the fish have. If you kind of follow all those rules, you'll have a very successful semi-aggressive setup. So thank you guys for watching, and if you're interested in some of these fish or some of these plants, I do have some of them listed for sale on the website at thedirtytank.com. So give it a look if you're in the market for some new fish. And also, just one last reminder, we do have a free newsletter that you guys can subscribe to. It's all about fish keeping and aquascaping, and for 10 minutes a week, it can help you become a better fish keeper. Thanks guys, see you next time.